to the floor, but he went to the floor because he was holding his shoulder, and I think they just got that wrong, and the match review panel backed that up by not giving a ban out to Levi. The Jerry McGilvery one, I can understand a bit more because he was late, and it was a bit shouldery, but the more you watched it, the more it did look like he was just making some sort of effort to wrap his arm around, and it wasn't high, so, that's fair, but it did look like a late shouldery cracking off the wing, which to me, I can understand why a yellow card would be given. Huddersfield fans have seen Jerry do that 1,000 times, so they wouldn't understand it, but, Hull fans who've seen Beretta Farimo do it and seen him get carded will understand that cards get given for that sort of thing. But I think it was just... I think the replay from the backside, when you watched it over and over again, like the match review panel got to, but James Child didn't get to, kind of supported it not being a yellow card. And then the other yellow card was for a lifted tackle, but the player getting lifted did the similar thing to the Wellesby one a few weeks ago, where he kind of, in the end, over-rotated his own body to get onto his back.
Yeah.
So, there's an argument to say, did he contribute to it himself, and really should it have been a sin bin because of that? But you kind of said you feel those things are more a player trying to get the safest outcome for themselves after being in a bad position. It was a lift. You could see the arm went under the leg and lifted, but...
Yeah. I mean, I've got a little bit more sympathy with some of that than I have with late hits or head-high tackles. Sometimes but then again, what you don't want is players land on the head. So we've got to err on the side of caution. But I mean, I didn't see this particular one, so I can't really comment, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm just covering it off because it was mentioned a few times.
Yeah.
That's my take on it anyway. What I would, if we're going back to the good stuff, Greg Eden, again, he shows he should play for Cass every week because he's the most sparky player that this side has, especially when they don't have Evolds there as well available. So, Faremo cannot come back in ahead of Eden, that's for certain in my eyes. If he does, it shows Radford has got his picks rather than picking on actual form and for his team and stuff. But Huddersfield, Latelli took over the game at that point. He scored his hat-trick, all very similar tries, all going through pretty much through Fanua and to an extent the winger as well, but Fanua's his opposite centre, needs to be able to handle him a bit better than he did. Alfert's maybe could have done a little bit better too, but all of them very close to the sideline, on the outlines, running into the same position, all well worked from the inside to create a little bit of a space, and all well finished. Will Price's goal kicking from the sideline as well was immense in those last three tries.
It was, wasn't it? I saw some of his kicks were coming from way out. It looks like he can kick, that's for sure.
He certainly had it absolutely bang on in this game. And the other thing, and I think Mark mentioned it, the outcome of the game after the yellow cards, after the comeback from Cass, that was an exciting thing. It certainly made the game interesting, but it was very condensed what they did there, Cass did. Huddersfield showed their resilience, they showed the strength that they've got within this group. They've added much better ball movement to what they do this year. The Jerry McGilvery try, there were so many players in motion that were options or whatever, and the balls weren't like crisp necessarily, but they were, because there was so much going on and the right choices were made. That shows something that Huddersfield weren't doing last year under in Watson's first year, that it's all come together now. So they are really impressive this year. Top four should be their aim after this, after 5 weeks, the second. So top four should be their aim. They top six. They're a top six side the way they're going. So we'll see if Levi was out for an extended period of time, maybe if Lola here dropped in form, maybe we'd have to see how they come about off that. But this was done without Theo Farge again, and Ollie Russell keeps stepping up.
Yeah. This is all to draw us into tipping them every week, Mark. that's what it is. and then they'll blow up, and we'll end up where we did last year.
Yeah. You won't have seen Ian Watson's comments after the game. These were interesting. It echoed something that Barry McDermott slipped into the conversation that they were having on Sky after the Thursday night game. I think a couple of other people have come out and said something about it as well. But he basically implied that there's play acting and diving coming into our sport, and the implications that people are making is the more we see these cards, the more we see people diving to try and get cards.
To get them.
I'm not sure it's reached that level yet where it's totally obvious and it's definite cheating and play acting. I don't think we've reached that level yet, but there's been instances, hasn't there, and there's concerns to think about. He said he's going to have a talk to his playing group to say, absolutely not, that's not what we do here. I think it's on the coaches and the players to cut it out as if it starts creeping in. Our sport should not be win at all costs. That's not what our sport should be about. That's not really, for me, what sport should be about. Winning's important. It's what you do. You play professional sport for, but ultimately it's also an entertainment industry, and there's an integrity in our sport. There should be an integrity in our sport, because what these players do physically, week in, week out, even without, high shots and stuff like that, that shouldn't happen. Even when the game's played on the level as it should be done, like Wigan Huddersfield the other week, 2 players hit their heads against their own teammates in going into tackles that there was nothing bad about the technique, there was nothing bad about what was done, there was nothing bad about the ball carrier or the tacklers. It was just bad luck that happened in our sport. Yeah. There's an integrity to our sport, and so players and coaches have to be cutting that out, because we can't rely on the refs to be picking it up, because they've got enough on the plate without weighing up whether a player's over-egging something or what have you. That's even harder to do on the fly than all the other decisions they have to make. So I'm glad the behaviour's being called out, hopefully early, and it's going to get cut out. By the Sky team talking about it, with Barry addressing it, by people like coaches like Watson addressing it. I don't know what your thoughts are on that anyway. Sorry, I've ranted.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think you're spot on. I haven't seen anything this year from the games I've watched that's obviously down that. I think we saw more of it over the last few years, where players were, let's say, hitting the floor in order to get some assistance from the side, remarkably when the side were defending their own line. Let's put it that way. So I thought we saw a lot of that with trainers coming on the field to check heads and all that sort of thing when players were near their own line. I haven't seen anything this year of that, to be honest. There was
one. I think we saw our first green card, but I don't think the green card was zoned in on. But I think we saw our first green card in the next game we're going to talk about, because Sam Tompkins was told by the referee he had to be off the pitch for either 2 minutes or until his team gets the ball back.
Oh, you're right. But it's not something. If that's the first one we've seen, I think almost every game last year, I felt we were at the stage where some player was going down and a trainer was coming on checking the head.
By some player, you mean Lachlan Coote? We all know who you mean.
No, I was thinking more of Austin, actually, from Warrington rather than Luckley.
The other thing I think we saw over a few years, and that in the last 2 years has been cut out because of a rule change, actually, but was diving around at the ruck trying to win penalties all the time. They pushed the onus more onto the ball carrier at the ruck, and I think we've seen a cleaner ruck from it.
Yeah,
in general.
I think that's right. I think what you've said is right. It's not about sport. It shouldn't be all about. About winning at all costs. But what you'll always find is players and teams will evolve as the rules evolve in order to try and get an advantage. We just have to accept that's part of any competitive sport, and we have to keep working at it in order to make sure that we tweak these things to stop, keep the sport at the highest level and, stop teams messing around as much as we can.
And that's the six again conversation me and Sarah were having, isn't it? And I noticed in the NRL that they've brought in it's a penalty if you commit it within 40 metres of the opposition's line, sort of stopping them getting out, basically. So that's a tweak we'll probably make next year.
Yeah, I think that's right. I was thinking of something like that. Or if it's on the first tackle, it's automatically a penalty.
Yeah.
Something like that. To stop teams doing what teams are definitely doing, and include my own in that, and that is effectively giving up a 7-tackle set in order to get defence set.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll probably, like I say, bring that in that the NRL seemed to have worked, and it didn't stop people. People were still bloody giving away penalties and 6 against like no tomorrow in the NRL. But bit of news story on this related to this game, cast related. They've taken Ryan Hampshire on trial, and I spotted before we started the show today. So we'll see if they bring him in. It might be an indicator that Danny Richardson's absence is going to be a lengthy one, which we already kind of expected. So maybe it's cover in that regard there, because he can cover a couple of positions, can't he?
Yeah. I mean, it's not an easy position Castleford find themselves in at the moment. I'd be, along with Fat Boy Rob, I think, in feeling a little bit glum about the current situation at Castleford, and I don't think taking Ryan Hampshire on load is going to raise too much hope.
No, but I'm saying nothing because they've got us next. Talking of us,
easy game for you this week, Mark, to make up for this weekend's game.
There isn't any easy games in Super League when you're Wigan. Target on your back, aren't you? Same as you lot. Anyway, talking of Wigan, it was Catalans versus Wigan. Robert Hicks was the referee. 7,481 people were out in the rain in the south of France. Who'd have thought it? 16-0 at half-time, 28-0 at full-time. Comprehensive win for the Dragons. This game had the highest overall tackle success rate so far this year, with both teams combined, 96%. Wigan's was marginally better than Catalans, actually, and this game only yielded 1 clean break. The conditions played a part in that in France, but I guess defences did as well. Wigan went under 1,000 metres. The most significant factor towards that might be the 14-6 error count that they lost. Great on Catalans, only making 6 errors in those conditions. Catalans made nearly 400 more metres than Wigan and made ground at 1 metres per carry better average gain, along with making that 1 clean break and scoring 4 tries to 0.
For the winning side, Tom Davis, 154 metres. Ben Julian, 41 tackles, 117 metres, going both ways. Arthur Romano, 117 metres, and Dean Ware, 103. For the losers, Sam Powell, 49 tackles, 12 from Marker, and Liam Farrell, 46 tackles, 12 from Marker.
Not the 300th career game for Wigan that we would want for the Ginger
Wanted.
Pearl. There you go.
No.
Alan Walker said, "I couldn't go. Never mind, as the match was called off as Wigan didn't show up. Wigan was sanctioned and Eldrax were awarded a 28-0 win."
Callum Percy 99 says, spoke too soon. What a load of shit.
Matt Speakman said, poor conditions and gave Catalans plenty of chances to score. Ellis took issue with a cheap shot, but he'll be missing for a lot of games. Yeah, we'll get on to that. A week to forget in France for Wigan, but you'd have taken 8 points with a loss at Catalans before the season started. Let's see what the response is like.
Pob the Viking. Catalan the better team, and it showed. Thought the cards were all correct, and Hicks had a good game. Wigan and the curse of manager of the month.
Scoot said, an enjoyable match to watch, even if ridiculously one-sided. Did Wigan forget they were meant to be playing and not holidaying in the south of France? Good to see a proper set of punches thrown rather than handbags at 10 paces. The RFL don't agree with that, Sarah.
No, Sarah. White Pie, utterly shambolic from Wigan, unable to do the basics like catch or keep hold of the ball. The highlight from Wigan was the Cade Ellis punch that got him sent off. Outplayed in every facet by Catalan, and it showed we're way off Saints and the Dragons. It was that good we made Pearce look good.
And Carsten said that was very one-sided. I'm wondering if Wigan were on the plane already.
Go on. I watched this, Mark, but your team, mate, you stick the knife in first.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about the punch-up and the bans that have come from that later on. Recording this on Tuesday night, we don't know why they've been treated so differently, so we'll get to that in a minute. Look, it's pretty simple, wasn't it? One team played the conditions better than the other, hugely, and in particular, Drinkwater was brilliant in that regard, and Pearce came up with some big moments in the game too. So, their halves played the conditions perfectly. Our team didn't, and they deservedly won as a result of that.
Yeah. I mean, I thought